Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Frank Razan Pereira. In a landmark verdict on the power tussle between the Delhi government and the centre, a 5-judge bench of the Supreme Court today unanimously held that Lieutenant Governor Anil Baijal does not have independent decision-making powers and is bound to act on the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. The judgment pronounced in the court by Chief Justice Dipak Misra, who was heading the Constitution bench, also held that the LG cannot act as an obstructionist. In 3 separate but concurring judgments, the bench, also comprising Justices A K Sikri, M Khanwilkar, Chandrachud and Ashok Bhushan, said that there is no independent authority vested with the LG to take independent decisions. It said all decisions of the Council of Ministers, who are elected representatives of the people of Delhi, must be communicated to the LG, but that does not mean his concurrence is required. On this edition of The Big Picture, we will analyze the Apex Court's judgment on the power tussle in Delhi and its implications. Joining me on the program today are BP Singh, former Governor and Home Secretary; PK Malhotra, former Secretary, Ministry of Law and Justice, Government of India; Justice Jaspal Singh, former Judge, Delhi High Court; and Shekhar Iyer, senior journalist. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. Mr. Malhotra, I'd like to begin with you first. So who is Delhi's boss? Is the debate over who Delhi's boss is now finally over?
I think the issue was clear earlier also, but because of a different party being in power in the center and different party being in power in the state, probably there was a confusion with regard to the interpretation of the provisions of Article 239AA, under which the NCT of Delhi was constituted and provision for assembly was made. In the present judgment, what the Supreme Court has done is, it has simply interpreted the provision of 239AA, but so far as the main issues for which the parties have gone to the Supreme Court, they are yet to be decided by the concerned division benches. It is the interpretation of Article 239AA which has clarified the position, and as you have very rightly said in your opening remarks, that confusion was that who is the boss. Probably Delhi government, Delhi High Court passed an order whereby they said that LG is the boss. But while interpreting the provision of 239AA, the Supreme Court has clarified, and if I have to put it in layman words, Delhi, although a union territory, it falls in Schedule 1, but it has been given a special status. A special status has been carved out because of Article 239AA, which was substituted in the year 1991, whereby the Delhi government, having the legislative assembly, enjoy almost all the powers which state assemblies and state enjoys, except 3 subjects, that is the public order, police and the land. So far as these 3 matters are concerned, the control still remains with the central government, but in rest of the matters, the Delhi government enjoys all the powers of the state government, and the procedure to be followed is the same as it is followed in exercise of powers by the state government vis-a-vis the governor of the state.
Sure.
Another rider which has been put and which the Supreme Court has now clarified is that in case LG has a serious doubt on a policy matter, and mind it, they have said important matters, not a trivial matter, probably the matter can be referred to the central government, and the central government, or for that matter the president, will take the decision on such matters. I think this now there was in fact policy paralysis in a way so far as the functioning of the Delhi government is concerned. With this clarification which the Supreme Court has now given, probably people of Delhi will be benefited, and probably Delhi government will start functioning in the way it is expected to function, and people of Delhi will be benefited.
All right, Mr. Malhotra, let me take the points that you made to the other panelists as well. Mr. Singh, you don many hats. Today I'm going to ask you to don the hat of a former governor. One of the major allegations against the Lieutenant Governor is that he acted unconstitutionally, he didn't follow the constitutional mandate, and he also exceeded his brief. Was that the case?
You know, the events during the past several months in Delhi made me feel that as a student I used to read about diarchy in the Government of India Act of 1990, where there were some subjects which were reserved, some subjects which were transferred, and there was a tug of war. And here there was something like that. Who is number one, who is subordinate, who is equal. You know, we have to realize that democratic governance in India is only 7 decades old. And we have to act in a manner that the Constitution is meant to work. The Constitution is quite clear, as Mr. Malhotra has clarified. Under Article 239 AA, there are only 3 subjects, that is land, police and public order, which are reserved, for which the Lieutenant Governor is responsible, and he is responsible to the Union Home Ministry. And the directions of the Union Home Ministry are binding on him. But he has also a solemn responsibility to work in a harmonious manner with the state government, which has, you know, powers in respect of other subjects, education, health, delivery of other services. And this is what is vital for the people. Then you are here in Delhi, which is a sensitive place. For example, whatever happens, things go to all the capitals, all the countries of the world. The ambassadors report. Whatever happens, the media reports that how this system is working. Now, in such places, you don't, you know, in a place like Delhi, you don't sit on dharna on the eve of the Republic Day in the open field as a chief minister. You don't call a chief secretary at midnight and then indulge in violence. Similarly, you don't treat chief minister with a scant respect. Both these things have happened. The last one was rather very unseemly, that there was dharna inside the house of the Lieutenant Governor, and that too by the Chief Minister and his ministers. Now, this is something unheard of. This is not the way the Constitution would expect anyone to behave. Now, fortunately, the Supreme Court of India has done one thing very clear, that the Lieutenant Governor is bound to be guided by the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers,
so the
in
emphasis
respect of areas which are within his field. Except these three items.
Yes. So the emphasis is on the elected government.
Yes. Yeah, that is what democracy wants. That is what democracy is. And
Sure.
that is what the Constitution says.
Sure. You know, Justice Singh, as has been mentioned by the previous 2 speakers, the Constitution is very clear as to what the Governor and the Lieutenant Governor's role is and what is his constitutional mandate. That having been said, why did the High Court earlier think otherwise?
Well, now that the Supreme Court has given its verdict, let's forget what the High Court said, because the judgment of the Supreme Court is final.
Final, yes.
I think it has been beautifully summed up, the judgment, by the first speaker. The fact remains that Aam Aadmi Party, which was the petitioner, has gained certain clarifications. For example, the Lieutenant Governor is not a governor in the constitutional sense. He is only an administrator. Number 2, the Supreme Court has made it clear that the State Assembly has all the powers to legislate, excepting those subjects which are excluded. So that ambiguity is also gone. But then I have grave doubts, or rather reservations, on the interpretation or the way it has been said by the Supreme Court with regard to proviso to clause 4 of Article 239 of the Constitution, which provides that the Governor or the Lieutenant Governor in this case, has the power to refer the dispute to the President. Now, what the Supreme Court has said, I'm very sorry to state that it's all ambiguity. It will create more confusion. And if you permit me, I'll point out certain things.
Certainly, please do.
Now, it says that in case of difference of opinion on any matter. Now, the question arose, is the word any the same as every? Supreme Court has laid down that any is not every. That's good. To that extent, it's very welcome. But then it says that every decision where there is a difference. Now, it says difference should not be for the sake of difference. Ambiguity. Number two, there has to be some valid ground. Again, everything is left to the Lieutenant Governor. It is for him to decide as to whether there is a valid ground or not. Who is to judge him? Who is to stop him at that time? And then it says that while exercising that power, the Lieutenant Governor has to keep in mind constitutional trust and morality. Again, extremely vague terms as far as law is concerned. That means the Supreme Court has left many things unsaid, rather has given all the powers for the Lieutenant Governor to decide as to whether there is a difference of opinion and whether he should refer it to the President or not. Now, who is going to bell the cat at that stage? We know what has been happening. Here is a Lieutenant Governor who would not like to meet the Chief Minister, who is an elected Chief Minister of the state. Here is a Lieutenant Governor who is requested by Chief Ministers of 4 states to allow them to meet the Chief Minister and says nothing doing. And all these problems have arisen because of the Lieutenant Governor. Now, what stops him from saying, I have a difference of opinion on this, I refer it to the President?
Sure. So there is a lot of ambiguity and there are a lot of loopholes is what you're suggesting.
This is devastating. It gives him all powers.
Okay. Sure. Let me bring in Shekhar Iyer now into the picture, and find out from him, because the Aam Aadmi Party is claiming victory. It is said that it's a moral victory for the people of Delhi and for the Aam Aadmi Party. Is it too early for the Aam Aadmi Party to celebrate?
Well, I think, of course, Aam Aadmi Party is claiming victory because what it sees as some kind of restriction imposed on the role of the Lieutenant Governor. But I think the more interesting part of the Supreme Court judgment is the observation where it is referring to a particular aspect of Aam Aadmi Party governance in particular, and the Chief Minister himself. Because here it says that it is argued that one can be a rational anarchist, but the said term has no entry in the field of constitutional governance and rule of law. Here you had Kejriwal himself saying, yes, I am an anarchist in various years. I think the basic confusion itself, as to what are the subjects under the Lieutenant Governor, what are the subject Delhi government, the confusion started from day one. Because Aam Aadmi Party was not willing to accept that this is a union territory. This is not a full-fledged state. See, a lot of confusion arose from that, and subsequently in every issue we saw, because here it specifically says, 3 issues are kept out, which is land, your law and order, and public order. Now, a lot of those clashes that we saw, either with the present LG or the previous LG, often, was on these areas, knowing very well that these are not in the domain of this state government. So, on one hand, the Lieutenant Governor has been told, look, you can't be opposing everything for the sake of opposition. But my focus rather would be, after this, will it have a sobering effect on the kind of politics that has been sought to be played with Aam Aadmi Party? Because now that it is very clear that Delhi is not a full-fledged state. So they will have to first internalize this fact that Delhi is a union territory.
Sure.
Therefore, any future their decisions will have to be on this, because you can't take decision on something that impinges on what is not under your domain. Then go about having a big fight as to, the Delhi has to be a big state, because that is what even Sheila Dikshit pointed out. You see, after all, she was there for 15 years and she said, look, you will have to understand, of course, there is a case for making a Delhi a full-fledged state. And equally there are arguments why Delhi cannot be a full-fledged state. But to accept the rule of law and the constitutional governance, I think that's a big point that Supreme Court has emphasized. And I hope AAP takes it note.
I think that's a point that I want to take forward. On the statehood of Delhi itself, should Delhi be given complete statehood? What are the arguments for and against this, Mr. Malhotra?
I think it's first I would like to answer one thing, that it is not a question of victory or defeat of any party, any political party. The Supreme Court has very clearly given the guidelines and laid down the law that Constitution is supreme, and every functionary under the Constitution has to function within the parameters laid down by the Constitution for his functioning. That's a very clear message to all the three organs of the government and all other constitutional functionaries. So far as granting statehood to Delhi is concerned, I think whichever political party has come to power, be it BJP, be it Congress, be it AAP or any other party, everybody when they were ruling Delhi has said that Delhi should be granted a statehood. But I think we have to look at the background of it. When Delhi was declared as national capital territory of Delhi in 1991 by way of a constitution amendment, I think the concept was very clear. When there is a seat of the central government, there cannot be two authorities. And I think world over, to the best of my understanding, the practice is like this only. You take, for example, Washington, D.C. You have only a mayor. You don't have an elected government there. So I think the similar kind of thing is needed here. Probably it will be very difficult to say, and I think the Supreme Court has also made an observation in its judgment, in the circumstances which are prevailing, probably Delhi cannot be granted a full statehood. Now, I think that in fact was the not issue before the Supreme Court. Before the Supreme Court, the issue was what are the powers of the Lieutenant Governor and what are the power of the elected government. And to that extent, the Supreme Court has clarified the position very well. And I think that will be a way forward for Delhi government to proceed. And probably the kind of difference of opinion which we have been looking in between the central government and the state government, probably that issue will not now arise. It has also been said, I think Justice Singh made a point that probably there is some ambiguity in the judgment. But I think there are certain areas where probably you can't call it an ambiguity. There has to be some leverage to be given, some discretion has to be given to the constitutional authority to come to a conclusion whether this is a matter which really should go to the president for his advice, or he can take a decision at his level. When a constitutional functionary is taking a decision, it is expected that he will be applying his wisdom, and he will not be referring trivial matters to the president. And I think on that ground, the Supreme Court has given some clarification, and I am in agreement with that.
Okay, sure. Mr. Singh, does the Supreme Court judgment open the Pandora's box? Now, are other union territories going to demand something after this judgment?
I don't think so. This is coming to victory or defeat. It is a victory for everybody. Because
why do you call it a victory for everybody?
Because till the other day, the government of India had issued a notification calling him the chief, the lieutenant governor. The other day, the High Court said something, and political parties had different opinions. Why I am saying it is a victory for everyone? Because it clarifies very clearly. Say, what happens? Suppose the State Assembly passes a bill on any subject within its area. Now, and then it goes to the Lieutenant Governor for assent. Now, any subject will have bearing on land. It may have a bearing on the country's image. It may have certain language which need not be there. Now, if the Lieutenant Governor feels in his wisdom, he should pass it on to the Home Ministry, that these are the things which I find it difficult to approve. And if the Home Ministry, in consultation with the Ministry of Law and everybody concerned says that yes, then the Chief Minister, the state government is advised to modify. Now, there is nothing wrong with that. There is absolutely nothing. But these cases can't be on every matter. Then I hope the Lieutenant Governor has enough work to open so many functions, speak, deliver good speeches, cultural events. And he has a law and order issue, which is a serious issue. He has police commissioner to assist him and whole paraphernalia of police. DDA is in a mess. He has so many jobs. I don't think he's underworked. I thought every Lieutenant Governor of Delhi, I found it as Union Home Secretary, is overworked. And I have sympathies. I don't think he has enough time to quarrel or raise issues on every file that goes to him as sent by the... he's not in politics.
Sure.
He's a seasoned administrator, and this judgment only helps him function as a seasoned administrator.
Right.
And I'm very happy that the Supreme Court has used phrases with great care, because we have to make democracy work in this country, as I said earlier, consciously, that we have no other way out to govern this large country. And you have to function in a very, very non-partisan manner. Politicians, of course, will do politics, but they should not do unsavory politics. Some of the examples that I have given.
Indeed. You know, Justice Singh, you said there were loopholes in this judgment. You said there was ambiguity as far as this judgment is concerned. What do you believe is the best way forward to deal with this problem? How do we put an end to this issue? Because at the end of the day, we want to see the elected government perform, and we also want to see the constitutional head also perform his duties.
You see, my impression is, after going through this judgment, that as far as the state government is concerned, constitutional position was very clear right from day one. The only person who must be laughing up his sleeves is the Lieutenant Governor, because he has been given all leverage to do all mischief. Now, if you permit me, I'll quote those things. He says, there has to be some valid ground to refer to the president in case of difference of opinion. Now, who is to decide that there is a valid ground? It is the Lieutenant Governor. Who can challenge his decision? None, unless and until you go to the court again. Now, it need not be in a mechanical manner that he should refer every decision. What is mechanical manner? You are again giving absolutely free hand to the Lieutenant Governor, because it is he who is to decide. Then they say there has to be some valid ground.
Sure.
Who is to decide that there is a valid ground?
No, your points are well taken.
Only the Lieutenant Governor.
Your points are well
So
taken,
the
Justice.
problem is,
But what is the solution to the problem?
you see, the solution was the Supreme Court. It's unfortunate. I'm very unhappy over the language used by the Supreme Court. They should have known what Delhi is facing. Delhi is facing all the problems because of the Chief Minister or the state government and the Lieutenant Governor.
So the people are suffering as a result of what's happening there,
Yes,
is what you're suggesting.
and they have left it again in vague terms. It was the job of the Supreme Court not to use such vague terms.
Okay. Shekhar
Who is
Iyer?
to bell the cat?
Sure. Who's to bell the cat is what the Justice is asking. Shekhar Iyer, what are the political implications of this judgment?
No, I think the time has come to realize that Delhi, which is a growing population of 2.7 crore people as of today, it is no longer just a union territory. See, this kind of population and kind of the pressure that is building on the national capital region would require, ways to look, are we getting the best kind of administration and governance in this place? Perhaps it's time to relook at the model and in this the politics has to be kept out. Look at a model, let's say Washington DC, which is actually District Columbia, which is carved out of the Virginia state. Similarly, there are capitals which are actually limited, even Beijing for instance. In a Beijing situation where you do not allow movement of population from the rest part of China to Beijing, which is itself in a way contained. But here in Delhi, you have people all over the country coming here, and every day the population is growing. And that requires, tackling up major issues like housing, water, electricity, transport. All this requires much more than simply a battle between Lieutenant Governor and Chief Minister. But till we get into the larger issue, I think perhaps both sides, particularly I would say the Chief Minister and the state government, the Delhi city government, to realize, look, you will have to function from what is there already and try to see what best can be done, rather than attempting a bigger national politics through a politics of Delhi, which was what happened in the last 3 years. Because all along, what did we see? We saw Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal busy in other places, in Punjab, then in Haryana, then in Goa, in Gujarat, rather with his national ambition, rather than tackling the problems of Delhi. And today, after this judgment, now I don't see Kejriwal finding any other person to blame in the next 1 year that is left for the next elections.
Sure.
Therefore, it is back to governance, minus the politicking involving constitutional figures.
Indeed, indeed. Closing comments now from, I'll try to get in as many as I possibly can, so I'm going to ask my guests to be brief. Mr. Malhotra, Shekhar Iyer is suggesting that we need a new model of governance as far as the national capital is concerned. What could that model possibly be?
Well, I think probably like Mr. Shekhar himself has mentioned that Washington DC has been carved out of state of Virginia. Probably similar kind of example can be created here also. You carve out New Delhi area as a seat of the central government, and rest of it can be made a state if that is taken as a matter of policy. But I think there are many other issues also connected to this, and one of the main issues which triggered all this litigation was the notification or the order issued by the Ministry of Home Affairs in May 2015, which empowered Lieutenant Governor to take final decision on many issues, including matter relating to services. I think all these petitions are still pending. The Supreme Court has given its judgment only on the interpretation of Article 239AA, which defines the power of the Lieutenant Governor as well as the state government. The matter will again go back to the concerned benches of the Supreme Court, and what view they are taking in the individual petitions which are pending before these benches following the judgment given by the Constitutional Bench is yet to be seen, because that will really set the tone as to what is going to be the relation between the Lieutenant Governor and the Chief Minister or the elected government, and whether the people of
Mr.
Delhi
Malhotra,
will
I'm sorry to cut you short. I'm running out of time. I've got only about 30 seconds left on the program. I'm going to get a quick closing comment in from Mr. Singh. Please be brief on the way forward.
I was in Washington DC for 3 years, and I have seen how they are functioning. Now, you can have that, but here the areas have to be earmarked, and that's a very sensitive job. And nobody, no political leader, Chief Minister or opposition leader, nobody wants to leave Delhi. They will have to go out, and they are not willing to do so.
Sure.
I had given this model. Those things are on the file when I was Union Home Secretary. So the way out is to work
with the existing framework
and improve the delivery of services.
Okay, improve the delivery of services, work with the existing model is what Mr. BP Singh is suggesting. On that note, I would like to call it a wrap on this edition of The Big Picture. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. That's it from me. See you again next time.